Well, hello and welcome once again to the Marijuana Resolve Show. We're taping here at the BC TV studios in downtown Brattleboro. Daryl Pillsbury and myself are here with a very special guest. We think that you'll enjoy and learn a lot from what Matt Simon has to say. Matt is the New Hampshire and Vermont legislative analyst for the Marijuana Policy Project in Washington, D.C. So Daryl and I say welcome, Matt. Yeah. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be in Brattleboro.
Well, I know that we were scheduled before, but thanks to the superstorm, we couldn't do it. But here we are,
which actually ended up better for us. We got better news to report,
and we have also post-election things to talk about because there's been some exciting things. And so, why don't we start with kind of jumping out of state and go to what's been happening in Colorado and Washington, because those are the two states that passed legalization measures for marijuana. Why don't you tell our viewers something about that?
Sure. It was definitely the political equivalent of a superstorm. General election this year, when two states voted by ballot initiative to make marijuana legal for adults and to set up a legal regulated market for the production and supply of marijuana. So that's Colorado, that's Washington State, and people have been waiting for this to happen for a long time. California, it came close a couple of years ago. Now it's happened in two states, and the question becomes, how's it going to work? Are the feds going to allow these stores to open up and sell marijuana? What does this mean for the legislators in 48 other states that are trying to craft sensible marijuana policies? So it's caused this conversation about marijuana policy to accelerate in a way that's unprecedented in my view, and we're only beginning to see where that conversation is going to go. There's obviously a lot of support already in Vermont for decriminalizing marijuana, and a lot of support as well for making it legal. So
right, and as you know, here in Vermont, Burlington, and I'm sure you're that the Burlington voters passed a referendum, 71%, which is astonishing, for legalizing all cannabis products, meaning marijuana and hemp. You mentioned stores. So let's build just a quick scenario. If you have a state that legalizes marijuana, right? And the thing is, how do you get it to the public as a product? So does that mean that if, let's say, somebody is dealing marijuana now in Washington, but yet the state has said that marijuana is legal, and they don't open stores, but the people where somebody knows where to go to get marijuana, you just go and get it, but suddenly it's no longer illegal to purchase and to sell. Is that how it would work, more or less? I mean, is it really going to move in the direction of marijuana stores for adults to go in, cash register, license behind their back, heavy fines and jail time if you sell to the underage? Is that how it's going to work?
The Washington initiative in particular is very tightly regulated. It allows adults to possess up to, I believe it's an ounce of marijuana. It doesn't allow people to grow their own plants. The only legal supply would be through this very regulated system of stores that's envisioned by the legislation. In Colorado, by contrast, adults are allowed to cultivate up to 6 plants for themselves. So if for any reason the stores aren't able to get up and running, there is at least the default that individuals can supply themselves and share with their friends or whatever. But both scenarios are envisioning a regulated scenario.
How would Colorado, this is because one of the big things that I saw, being in the legislature for years, you're always looking for new revenue sources. To me, this is huge. The tobacco tax in 2008 for the state of Vermont gathered $78 million for the general fund. I believe marijuana would get that and more. So I can't imagine them saying, okay, in Colorado you can grow your own and everything, but how are they going to tap that revenue source? Because that's one of the main reasons they're doing it. So if you got Joe Schmo over here growing it for a few of his buddies, how are they going to end up getting the revenue out of that.
Now you're referring to the Colorado
yeah.
versus
You're
Washington, right? Okay.
I'm just curious on that one.
Right.
If Matt would know, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure
it's-
what they're going to do in Colorado, or if they do have a plan for that. One idea that's been brought up with this type of policy is people are concerned about, I mean, if you want to grow your own plants, a lot of people do want to grow their own plants. You know, it's important
I
to
can
them to
understand
be
that.
able to do that. So what if they were able to purchase from the state or from the county or whatever a zip tie that is coded, that is identifier, and put it on each plant? Nobody knows where it is, but when the police come across a grow site, if each plant has a legal zip tie, that's been paid for and
Yeah,
there's
okay.
revenue. So that's one idea that's been thrown out. that
That's
could-
a good
could
one.
be considered.
I can see
I
that
like
working.
that also,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. That's because I was curious. I didn't have any idea because I caught that when they were talking about it. I was like, wait, they don't even have a. How are they doing that?
But
now,
you know-
in Washington, on the other side, it's more like what we've always talked
Stores.
about. The liquor
Right.
model that
Where
we have
we-
here in Vermont.
Right, exactly.
So,
And the alcohol model to sell it the same way, but which is interesting. If part of the concern is how the Fed's going to move in on this product, excuse me, it seems then that Washington is more exposed because they're going to have a regulated store setup. Well, the Feds will go in and target that just like they do the dispensary setups as well. If you have people in Colorado that are largely growing their own with tie tags that identify this as a legally purchased product, then you would need all the type of surveillance in order to get there and locate those. Sooner or later, the Feds are going to pop. You know, and the two setups, Colorado and Washington, are perfect venues to. Do you think so? Perfect venues to see what would happen once you get to either stage. Targeting legal stores by the Feds, doing aerial surveillance to deal with Colorado, it's going to be too much after a point. So while we're also on the subject of Feds, you had mentioned something, we had a little conversation earlier about Obama and his second term, and that his hard-nosed attitude was really intended for his first term, not his.
I agree with that.
You think so?
I think
maybe
so. I hope
he
so.
can loosen up a little bit in his second term?
I believe what I said is that it's a plausible scenario.
Plausible,
that
yes.
I don't know what President Obama's
No, but I think
secret thoughts are.
Yeah.
But there's certainly evidence from his past political history and his personal history, having been a marijuana user and a cocaine user, and having been honest about that. There was certainly, I can understand how he would have other agenda items that he would want to accomplish, and that there would be a fear of losing his second term if he came out too strongly in favor of these things during his first term. So it's at least a plausible theory that, having been reelected, that the second term is different. I also want to point out, we talked about the federal raids in medical marijuana states. They haven't happened in Colorado. Colorado has a seed-to-sale regulatory system for their dispensaries.
Yeah,
It's all
very
very
tight.
tightly regulated at the state level. So the feds have left that alone, with the exception of they've sent letters to some stores saying that you're too close to a school, you need to move. But other than that, they have not done this. So we think that under the previous few years' doctrine that the administration has had, the memo that they sent out in 2009 said as long as you're in clear and unambiguous compliance with state laws, that you're not going to be a federal priority. So in states that make it clear, like Vermont has for its dispensaries, like Maine has for its dispensaries, clear laws, clear regulations, we haven't seen the federal interference. So we think regulation is the solution to a lot of that. But also, hopefully, we're going to get some kind of different, that the administration in its second term will be more upfront with everybody, here's what we're going to do, and have it be a non-interference policy.
I hope that, because the one thing that really surprised me was the Obama administration had more federal than the Bush 8 years of
Yes.
Bush when
Yes.
they came in, and that one just blew me away. But I totally agree with Matt on this one. I think Obama, being a politician, and I think it's going to be on not just the marijuana, I think you're going to see that on several fronts this time around. I hope that's the way it goes.
Second term is always a little different than the first. if not
There's
a lot
nothing
different.
for him to run for now.
Right.
He's there now. Now is the time to do everything that you want to try and do. and get accomplished.
Yeah, to do what's right, Barry. I mean, give us a break here.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, it's reported and acknowledged that he and his college buddies used to sit in a car and roll up the windows. And they were not allowed to leave until all of the marijuana smoke was inhaled. I mean, come on. It's really it's a shame that we have to have presidents who can smoke like that at the same time that our prisons are filling up largely with marijuana smokers who are nonviolent, who do not who are not really dealers. They're in there for possession. And private use only, really, is what it amounts to. So, okay, let's jump to Vermont. We have a newly elected and re-elected officials now in our legislature. Several of them may be with us tonight at the marina, hopefully, and the public can come and meet them and meet you also and talk to you. We just had an event in Burlington where the city of Burlington voted to legalize all cannabis products, both hemp and marijuana, as a signal of support. The law has it's not a law, it's not binding, but what it was intended to do was to send a message to the people upstate that 71% of the voters said that this is what we should do. That's a high number of people here. Now, but jumping into the realistic mode, which is in part why we've asked you to come to the show today, is we still have to target the legislature. And the legislature, no matter what Burlington does, is not going to consider legalizing marijuana this year, as far as we know. But what we do hope is that they'll target and legalize decriminalization of marijuana. Do you have any thoughts on that, or anything that our viewers do you think would like to hear?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there is increased interest from Vermont lawmakers in the prospect of regulating marijuana in the future, and that conversation will be a conversation that is had. Mm-hmm. But I think the votes are there right now in the House and Senate to reduce the penalty for marijuana possession, make it a fine only, make it so police and courts don't spend all their time dealing with minor marijuana offenses and can instead focus on more serious crimes. I think there will be a wait-and-see attitude. Let's watch Colorado. Let's watch Washington. Let's see what the feds do before that legislation is going to be passable in Vermont, and we'll see where that goes. But this year, we believe the votes exist, and Governor Shumlin being reelected is a pretty strong affirmation that decriminalization, the sensible decriminalization of marijuana in Vermont, is supported by
We've had the votes, I believe, for several years. Our problem, as you know, because we were talking about this before we got on here, was the Speaker of the House, who now has said
to his
that he will let the debate happen this session.
Right. To his credit,
So
Shapley Smith has come around for different reasons, really, to open the door to take this through the House. And I think, are you suggesting, Daryl, that the Senate
will pass it anyway.
Would pass it, right?
They will have a bill. They're going to do probably a tripartisan bill. That will be introduced at the beginning of the session. The House, I'm not sure. Matter of fact, when Senator White comes on, we can ask her that, and I'm sure that she'll say that that's going to come. Right. The Senate wasn't a problem last year. It was the House, and everybody knew it was the House. Remember, we were going to do a letter writing campaign to the Speaker, but we didn't need to.
No, there's been a lot of public activity on the issue of decriminalization. And you probably hear this yourself over time. Whenever the topic of decriminalizing marijuana comes up, almost universally people have said to me over the past several years, well, I can support decriminalizing marijuana, but I don't see why. Why don't we just make it legal? Have you gotten that response? I mean, I get that a lot from people.
I've heard that a number of times. And one big difference is decriminalizing marijuana is supported by 2 out of 3 Vermont voters, whereas legalization is probably closer to 50-50. The votes exist in the House and Senate probably now to pass it, as opposed to legalization is something that would really have to be studied by the legislature before people would feel comfortable voting for it. So, like I said, that's a longer road, and I know that there will be a bill introduced next session on this topic. We'll see how much interest it
The
generates.
topic of decriminalization or legalization? You mean
Both.
Oh, but I see.
There will be a bill introduced regulating marijuana.
Now, you've been up to Montpelier already on a couple occasions, haven't you?
I actually haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
was
I thought
gonna-
the last time
No,
you were
that's,
gonna,
I was
oh, you
going to
made
come
it up there.
before, and it got a little windy.
the
There was a
story-
little bit of a breeze. that-
So you haven't been up there. Now,
A lot of rain.
are you a registered lobbyist now? Are you going to be in the book?
I probably will. I may be.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
well, yes.
You want to do that anyway. When you go up there, get a hold of Sergeant of Arms next time you're up there. Get in the book if you're not already in the book, okay?
Absolutely.
Just to let you know. Because it'll be nice to see that we now have MPP lobbyists in the state of Vermont. I think that's for people like myself, it's nice to have that there because you bring some weight behind your organization. I mean, it makes it look like, okay, now we got some people from outside, national people coming in and talking about this. Looks like something might happen.
And
With
the-
us, we're
and-
just state.
Yeah.
We're in
Yeah,
we're
You make
growing
me
now.
sound like I'm from D.C. or something.
No,
But by the way, the Marijuana Policy Project is the largest membership organization, I believe, in the United States. Alongside of NORML, and MPP has something like 100,000 members in their organization. So they're not and very key people in terms of knowing the subject. Rob Campia obviously is really well versed. Last month we went to the MPP fundraiser that Governor Shumlin spoke at with Montel Williams and Judge Gray, and Governor Shumlin really is a big part of this. He is very articulate. He has a right mix of caution, but also where do we take this? How far do we take it? And I think he's a perfect spokesman for it. And I hope that he takes more of a lead on this issue, because when states like Colorado and Washington come out and do what they're doing, legalization, it feels kind of like Vermont is left behind a little bit here. Why, should
I know they were talking on national radio,
we-
on national TV, how these were the leading edge states, and I'm like,
Yeah,
darn,
how can they
Vermont is
be?
Vermont.
Vermont has a history of being progressive and ahead of the other states in the different areas. Like, for instance, the first domestic partnership bill was passed in this state here, and you have gay marriage issues and other things like that. Why not marijuana? Why should but really California, Colorado, Washington, why should they get all the fun?
Well, I think that's a question people should ask the elected officials.
That's exactly
Because
right.
they're the people who are in a position to answer it one way or another.
That's right.
That's right.
That's the attitude that I've always tried to bring to this.
And the
They
one
vote
thing,
no today. That does not mean they'll vote no next week.
that's
Right.
right.
That
That's
means
right.
that you need to talk to them again.
And just to quickly on that, on the Washington, Colorado thing, a couple of the things that I really thought was exciting there, although the Burlington vote was just outstanding. I mean, that really shocked me. But it was 50, that passed, there were 2.7 million votes cast in Washington. 55.5% said yes. I mean, 55.5%, that's pretty darn good. And then what I really liked was two of the district attorneys in two of the counties, let's see, King County and Pierce County, just said, you know what? Boom, we're not even prosecuting. They had 220 cases they threw out of minor marijuana possession things. Because why now use
What's
up
the
their
point
resources
after
and
that?
everything? And already they're noticing that they're going to save money in the court system.
Absolutely.
It's huge. When I sit there and say the figures I say, and you're going to be doing a lot of this now, and once you get to meet our favorite senator from Windham County here, who just popped in the door, Senator White, you'll see that working with Vermonters is going to be a pleasure. Really, I'm telling you. We have a really good citizens legislature, and I like that. But anyway, it's a pleasure, Matt, to have you in Vermont working, having even that title. It sounds good. We didn't have one of them here before, so it looks good.
Legislative analyst.
Yeah.
Else,
And it's gonna be nice to work with you and help you as much as I can. up there because I still have a few connections anyway, and this is something that really means a lot to me. And
Well,
I
there's
imagine we're going to talk more about the Vermont stuff when the senator gets
That
on. which is-
and also, you know, see, 013 starts in January. Our session really only goes from about January to what, April, May, or something like that.
yeah, they like to be out of there in May for sure.
And so during that time, we're not going to lose sight of it. We're having Jeanette White, Senator White, who will be in the follow-up program, but also having you and her and other people from who represent this issue coming back. So in January, February, we really want to keep it before the public. And as you go through the process more, you'll learn more, and we'll be able to tell our viewers a lot more about this issue. And it's really fantastic. So. Now, when you, what do you basically envision since you work for the Marijuana Policy Project, has the board or Rob Campy, the executive director, communicated anything necessarily, or just you have more or less a free rein to work on this for Vermont and Montpelier?
Well, we're an organization like many others. We have a state policies department, of which I'm part of, and you know, Vermont's a state, so it's one of the states that I'm intently focused on, and I report on what's happening on Vermont to my department. We have a department head who reports to Rob directly, so
Okay.
you know, but Vermont is very high on our list of priorities. The decision to hire me and have me stay in New Hampshire, where I've been living the last several years and working on this, was done partly because we think New England is a really all over New England.
Really.
You know, the West Coast and New England are ahead of the curve on marijuana policy reform, and having me continuing to live in Manchester, New Hampshire, I can be in Brattleboro in an hour and a half, I can be in Augusta, Maine, I can
Right.
be in Boston.
Right.
I'm able to cover a fair amount of territory and actually do some organizing and some media opportunities and things like that that I would not be able to do if I was stuck inside the Beltway in D.C., where I'm really happy not to be, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
The 495?
You know, you could probably get a lot more done working out here with the state legislators than you ever can.
Well,
working
both
there.
Rob Campia and Alan St. Pierre from Normal, Rob is from MPP and Alan's from Normal, told me that they consider New England the real hotbed now. You know, there's a lot of attention from the West, you know, Colorado and California and so on, and we've had our own levels of success here as well.
For me, I mean, I got my own reasons that are personal, but for me as a policymaker for 8 years, I am telling you the amount of money that Vermont, when you really start looking at the numbers, it was $52,000, like I said, to incarcerate a prisoner back then. I don't know what the average cost is now, but it was $52,000. And out of that, we figured 78% of all the incarcerated people were there due to some kind of a drug. You know, they either broke their probation, they P-tested, at a lot of money. And it's not just the $52,000 a year for keeping them in there. It's the court system, it's quality of life issues, it's a whole bunch of other issues. So, and I see here, MPP, we change laws. You know, I was looking at that, and I like that. So
I like that
that's,
motto.
that's what you guys are going to be doing.
May we continue to live up to it.
On the camera,
Well,
but,
hopefully you're going to be successful in the state of Vermont. For you're going to have your work cut out for you for the next 2 years here. I'm sure, because by the time this session's over with, I would be shocked.
That's
when
right.
they have
Ours-
some kind of a policy coming out.
Right, our sessions are really 2 years. It's 013 and 014.
Right. It could get done in all 13.
We're hoping
but
that they do it in 13.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I don't see any reason why it should wait any longer.
Well, it should.
Particularly in
The
light
goal
of...
is certainly to get it done this year.
It's
Yes.
just, it's
Well,
but
I
we're
think-
getting on, you
I
know, there's so many other
2012,
things that when a
yeah.
legislature goes into session,
Yes.
this may not be on the top priority list.
Yes.
That's the problem.
And we'll learn more.
That's why we have Matt now. He's got to keep it there.
I'll do my best to remind them that it is a pretty big priority for the people of Vermont.
Okay, well, we got about 5 more minutes left with this segment, and then we have another segment following this with Matt and Senator Jeanette White and Vida So catch us on the next one too coming, but we still got 5 minutes left here.
Yeah, well, there's, if there's anything that you would like to, because this will be shown in southern Vermont and probably around. I'm trying, up in Burlington. Burlington's really hot, and because of what they did up there, we really think that by their legalizing the concept of cannabis products, they've opened up a really big door for us. What's your opinion? Do you think that type of door opening signal would have an impact on the legislature?
Well, it will have an impact on the legislature. It remains to be seen what that impact
What is
will
going
be.
to be,
But if they see
right.
towns emulate Burlington and pass additional ballot questions, I know you have a big town meeting in the
Yes,
spring.
in
Could be-
March, I think
could
it
be an
is.
avenue for that.
Right.
I think legislators in Vermont and New Hampshire are unusually, compared to other states, clued in to what the people in their districts actually think, and that they see this changing. And so the decrim bill, I'm very optimistic about the decrim bill. That's going to be my 99.8% focus is on getting that thing through the process, getting a bill, as you know, Daryl, through the process from introduction through committees and votes and more committees and more votes. It's not a walk in the park, it's not a cakewalk, but if there's will to get the policy done, which I think there is now.
I do.
That process will be a process that we can manage, and I'm confident we'll get it
I
done.
honestly thought the will was there last session, but it was really the Speaker of the House. He just did not want that brought up before the House, and that's just the way it is. The Senate was already rolling, so I think when we have Senator White, she can give a little background on what. Matter of fact, it's her committee. I think that worked a lot on the dispensary bill.
Yes.
So
And by the way, to Shap's credit, this is the Speaker of the House. It's not that he didn't have concerns about
Right.
it.
Right.
He did.
Yeah.
We really know that, or that he was necessarily mean spirited. But I think that what's the term of vox populi? When the voice of the people is heard, why ignore that? And I say that. That's why I say, to his credit, he's thinking of he came out and said, "I'm not going to stand in the way of this
Right.
legislation."
He'd say, "I'm going to vote for it. I'm just not
Right,
going to stand
exactly.
in the
And be
way."
clear, he's not said, I support this.
But
No, that's
he
right.
doesn't get the
That's
vote
right.
unless his vote matters. So
Right.
let's
That's
just hope
right.
his vote
He's
doesn't
going to allow
matter.
it to go
Yes.
through
Right.
the process, and the process is what's going to matter.
That's right.
Right. You're going to need the overall vote, and the Speaker obviously will have his say and vote in the matter. And I think it's okay if it's not. We're not asking everybody to support this necessarily, but to see the sense of why we should really stop incarcerating responsible adult users. And in our next program,
And be able to use all that money for programs like
For things
Vermont's
that-
healthcare, Catamel, or
healthcare,
whatever we're calling it
right.
now. I forget what we call it, but that would be great. I mean, I don't care what you do with that money.
Well,
but
you could do it
give
with
you give the
community,
legislatures another $100 million. They're going to be able to spend some of it.
hopefully for some good things.
They would,
you
I
know.
think.
So that's what we're hoping, that one of the end results is the saving of money, which we think is a really big part of
10% of our budget for the state goes to corrections now, 4% for higher education, which flipped in the last 12 years, which is incredible to me. So, well, listen, we got to go, Vida, for this segment. We're going to
Yes,
keep
we
Matt on
have.
again for the next
Okay.
segment. So,
So we're doing
maybe you want to
good,
give
so-
our talk to the folks.
Well, then, we have, once again, a conclusion of the Marijuana Rizal Show, and our special guest today is Matt Simon. And you've just heard from Matt. He's had a lot of good things to say about the issue, and we'll see where we go, and we'll have him back and talk to you
Yeah,
again.
You're going to get to know Matt on this show.
Right. So thank you, and have rest
Thanks
of
an
a
awful
good
lot,
day.
Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for watching out there, folks.